Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, Saka here, and welcome back to another episode of NASCAR Racing 2003 season. We are at Texas, and the weight is lifted off of our shoulders after our win at Martinsville last week. We just have to make sure to start this race and start Phoenix, and we will have that guaranteed spot in the championship. We're on the outside here behind Mark Martin in that 6 Ford, and on the pole is Brandon. Now, Brandon was a little behind the 8 ball last race, 8 points out of the cutoff, but a good run or even a win today can lock him into that championship run. Jeff Burton also has a lot of work to do, and he's inside row 2. So this should be interesting. We're not going to go for broke here, as 34 total laps and 16 in the tank. That's 32 total laps. If we can squeeze a few laps out of these 2 runs by rolling off early, shifting early, we might be able to do this on 1 stop. Now, the last Texas race that we ran in the spring, we were able to do such things as these, so let's hope for a similar result here. I'm not really going to press the issue much here. Rolling out nice and early, trying to make up as many laps as I can. If we can make it to 17 laps to go, then we will be really good shape for fuel, and that's about halfway, so that's ideally where we will pit for 4 tires. So we are just going to let this race sort of unfold as it happens, but we're not really going to stick our nose into too much here. We're in line behind Dale Jr. We have a car right behind us here. It's a really good feeling to be guaranteed in that spot in Miami. I really don't have to go for broke, but it looks like Brandon is doing well up there, holding off those guys behind. There's a bonus point for leading the most laps, so if Brandon can get that and keep other drivers in the chase from leading a lap, then he can get 2 bonus points on the entire field. So even if he does not win today, he can set himself up well for Phoenix next week. Looks like old Junior is putting Nadu a position back. Let's see if we can settle in here and pass Nadu. We'll pass cars as we come to them, but like I said, we're not charging forward, trying to pass cars. We're just sort of staying in line, minding our own business. If the yellow were to come out, we'll just play it by ear if the caution does fly. But as of now, this is sort of where we're going to run for the time being. I believe these cars in front of us will do 2 stops, so we're going to make up a lot of positions without having to fight for them. Speaking of fighting, old Johnny Benson up there in the 10 is on our outside, and boy, what a year Johnny Benson has had. 5 DNFs before the chase started. Basically took him out of a run. I don't know if old Benson would have been strong enough to make it past the 1st or 2nd round, but it's a shame. He's got a good car most weeks. All right, settling in behind Nadu. We'll run the outside. We'll let old Mike Skinner go around. There you go, old Mike. He was eliminated after the 1st round, so yeah, it's a position, but it's not an important position at all. It's an interesting dynamic being good to go, not having to really fight. Plus, that's good because we're saving fuel. With Brandon up there leading the race, he's going to have to sort of pace the field, and I don't think the AI is going for the 1-stop strategy, so they're going to be running a whole lot harder than we are. I believe Brandon is also on the 1-stop strategy, so we'll just mind our own business here. 12 laps left in the tank, and just under 30 laps to go here, so we're making good time as far as our fuel is concerned. Definitely rolling out well before the turn. Let's go into turn 3 here, and you can see what I mean. Rolling out right there. We should have driven another 3 or 4 car lengths into the turn, full throttle. So if you do this nice and early, you can save your fuel. The projected laps is based on if you are running absolutely as fast as you possibly can, and it's just a rough estimate. So we don't have an actual fuel gauge in the car, we just have a fuel pressure gauge. So this estimate by our pit crew here that says 11 laps until we pit is just that, an estimate. So I want the estimate to be more on our side. I don't want to really get that estimate too close to the line here. Speaking of to the line, looks like Skinner may be trying to pass Nadu in front. And we're close enough. I think this is the pace that we're going to be running here. Skinner isn't leaving us too awful much. The lead cars are definitely stretching it out, but in a fuel mileage race, you can definitely see this, especially if you go catch a race live. The cars that are saving fuel and on a fuel-saving strategy are significantly visually slower than the rest of the pack. The big trade-off is, and if you've been following my Motorsport Manager series, you may know this as well, is what's the benefit if they pit twice? You know, let's just say they're on pit road for a solid 2 minutes. You know, if we do not lose 2 minutes worth of time, so we can go 4 laps down and basically be good. So as long as we stay on the lead lap, this is going to be some gain on us, even though it looks like we're not doing that well. Crossing the line here, 24 laps to go, and we're looking for 17. So that's 7 laps, and we have 9 laps in the tank. So right now, we could pick up the pace just a little bit because they fill it up to 18 projected laps on an absolutely full tank. So that's the cutoff point. That's the point where we really have to get to if we want to make this one-stop strategy work. And we're reeling in Skinner a bit. We're not really pushing that hard, which has saved our tires as well. So once we do get to Skinner, even at this pace, we can look to the outside and see if we can get a drive off. We'll get a drive off to the inside here. We'll go and pass Skinner here. Yeah, we'll look to the outside. Looks like he's leaving that open for us. Now, for fuel saving mode, if you want to go absolutely min-maxing fuel saving, of course, you want to run the shortest lane around the track because the projected laps is based on sort of a racing line. So if you are outside of the groove at all, that's laps that is not factored into that calculation. So right here, I'm actually burning more fuel than what the crew chief thought I would. So we have to be very careful when we run that high lane. We might actually hurt ourselves in the grand scheme of things when it comes to pit road. Now, if these guys are doing the two-stop strategy, we're going to look for them to come in a few laps. So we'll be mindful of these cars in front of us. They give sort of a tell. When they're on the backstretch, they sort of drop down to the bottom, the middle lane, and then they really slow down on the entrance of turn 3. So we definitely do not want to be following very closely to any of these cars, trying to push them into the turn. See, Junior really checked up there. He's coming to pit road. So we're going to stay to his outside. He's going to duck off here, and it looks like the whole line is coming in. So with 20 laps to go, I do not think that they can stretch it that far. They're going to have to come in for a splash and possibly 2 tires. So that's what we're going to look out for here. We're 4 laps to the good on fuel, and we only need to go 3 more to really solidify that fuel strategy. With clean track here, we can run our own line. No one is around us, and we're just going to be putting these guys many seconds behind, maybe even lapping some guys. You see Brandon out there going into turn 1, so he is definitely on the one-stop strategy. So these guys are a lap down. If the yellow were to come out and we were to pit, we would trap all of these cars that Brandon is passing a lap down, which will help our cause tremendously. It might open up some options if we know we're not going to lose these spots. Around the 14, well, try to. The 14 has fresher tires, so technically he should be faster, especially since he's on the two-stop strategy. He can go a whole lot harder than we are currently going, but, I mean, he's a slow car. More cars going a lap down here. You saw the 4 Kodak machine. Down there's the 32 Tide Ride. And it looks like the Penske cars are down there. So still, more cars laps down. We're going to give that lap back once we pit. But they will come down one more time, essentially putting them another lap down. And we're just going to do one and done. So 17 laps to go here. And we've got 2 in the tank. This is the time when I think we're going to come. This time, we'll be coming down to 16 laps to go when we cross the line on pit road. So that should give us plenty of fuel to play around with. We could actually run some even faster laps if we so choose. depending on the situation. We're going to come down here. Pit road will be on the left. I'm going to start braking there at the Texas 4 sign. And whoa, loose. No! Don't hit the wall. Don't hit the wall. Sliding 360. All right, no harm, no foul. We're under the commitment cone. Good thing we're changing 4 tires. No harm, no foul. And I don't think that slide is going to cost us too many spots with them pitting. If they were on a one-stop strategy like us, though, that would be completely catastrophic. But luckily, we're on pit road. We may have burned all the good out of those tires, but you know what? Here comes 4 more. 4 tires and fuel, boys. Right sides are on, left sides are coming up. As soon as they drop the jack, we're going to go. 3,500 in second gear is our pit speed. And looks like Brandon was down and away. Hope he didn't speed. I think he's got this race in the bag, which is good for him. If he wins this race, then he is guaranteed a spot in the finale in Miami. And I'd like to race my best friend for a championship for sure. Let's not blend too quickly. Up into 4th gear nice and early to save. We are to the good as far as our fuel is concerned, and we saved our tires pretty well on that last run. I think if we just run that speed once more, we'll be okay. And not a whole lot of cars around us. That may change when they come down the pit road. If they're splitting this last run, they'll come down with 10 laps to go for their next stop. So we'll just keep an eye out once we get closer to 10 laps to go. If we are behind any of these cars, we'll give them a nice wide berth. But we're just sort of settling in here. Not exactly the most exciting approach to a race, but we do want to finish, and I think we've got the strategy nailed here. We're still a few laps to the good, and 2 laps to the good is sort of dangerous here. If we were to really start pushing, I don't know if it calculates our current speed or if it's like the complete top speed. I believe it's complete top speed, so in theory, we should be able to run as hard as we want this last segment, but there's really no need to. With all of these cars pitting one more time, it's not like we have to make up a whole lot of ground, because they're going to give up a solid 30 seconds to a minute based on pit road and the pit stop and then getting back up to speed. We're going to put them a lap down, possibly 2 here, with our 29 or 30 second lap times here. Coming around to 12 laps to go, we can sort of see where Brandon is once that lap counter ticks down. We can watch it tick down and know that probably that's Brandon or the leader, and that's where he is in our position. But 12 laps to go, so another 6 minutes of racing or thereabouts, and it's getting into crunch time. We're going to start watching cars come off pit road, so certainly we're not out of the woods yet. A bad lap car merging too quickly, or just 2 lap cars getting together off of pit road can pretty much bring us all back together, and we'll have to adjust our strategy on the fly. This strategy is based on a completely green race without any cautions here. But we are coming to the magical 10 laps to go, and we're going to start looking out. It looks like, is that Bill Elliott in front of us? I believe it is. So we'll look for Bill to pit. We're definitely catching him. He's getting bigger in the windshield, which is always good, and no one is getting bigger in the mirror. So even though we're running a nice conservative strategy, we're holding our own. We're holding our position, which is what's essential in a fuel mileage race. You definitely don't want to drop back to the back of the pack, get yourself lapped, and all of the time that you were trying to save, you end up just throwing it away on the racetrack before you even get to pit road. That's not ideal. But Brandon is across the line. Looks like we've got about 7 or 8 seconds off of Brandon, so he's a quarter lap ahead or so, maybe on the upwards of a half a lap. And yes, that is indeed Bill Elliott. And you can see how slow he's running. He should be running much faster, but I believe he is on the end of his tire run. So we'll pass him before we get into turn 3. Just like so. Doesn't look like he was pitting this time, which is good. the AI sort of loses their mind when they pit or when they start to initiate their pit stop. They really don't care where you are. If you're under them and their coding says to drop down the apron right now to pit, they are going to drive through you to get to that apron, which can breed a caution if these other cars are near each other coming to pit road. Let's see if any of this gaggle comes down. It's going to be interesting to navigate this gaggle of cars here. We should catch them here, even though we're being nice and conservative still with 2 extra laps in the tank. It's going to be pretty hairy, especially with them doing that. Oof, lap cars pushing one another. That's going to get dicey. 3 wide there. Let's get around the 42 of Kenny Irwin Jr. and hope that some of these guys pit. They'll get out of our way quick, fast, and in a hurry. Yep, looks like some cars are pitting down there. Their left sides are below the white line. But the Hill Bros car is not pitting this time. But most of that group did pit. So those are out of the way. We're going to make up all the time that they slowed down here and indeed lap this car. Coming around right here, is that the 7? No, that was the Cartoon Network car of Wally Dallenbach, and there's the 14 car down there once more. So we're seeing some of the same players that we were racing against earlier. Looks like Mike Skinner is going to come down pit road right there. And see how he was almost squeezed by the 77 of Robert Presley? All it takes is one bump, and those cars go sliding back into the racing line, bringing the yellow flag out. Then we would just sort of have to wonder where we would fall in the grand scheme of things. There goes Tony Stewart right there, a chase contender, 1 lap down for us. And we're closing in on the mark. Yep, there's another car coming down to pit road, and it looks like Jarrett is up there, chase competitor as well. So indeed, 4 laps to go right there. So Brandon is going into turn 1 right there, and I believe that is the lead right there. I'm not sure if Jarrett pitted yet or not, but I believe all the AI was on a 2-stop strategy. So I'm just going to mind my own race here. Like I said, there's really nothing for us to gain or lose here. The points will be reset going into Miami. So whoever wins this race, if not for me, will be even with me, no matter if I win the race again or not. So, you know, we're just sort of finishing this out nice and strong. Definitely catching the car in front of us, and I don't believe we're catching Jarrett. We're running at about the same speed as Jarrett there. Looks like Michael Waltrip here in the 7. We're going to catch him at the end of the straightaway. We'll look to the outside. We're still 2 laps to the good on fuel, so we can afford to get into the gas a little bit early, and we should have nice fresh tires to complete this last run with 2 laps to go. And getting in there, yeah, we're not catching Jarrett too awful much. I'm driving a little bit harder than last time for sure, but that's just to make sure that if something bad does happen, I'm going to be clear of it. And here we go, coming to the white flag. Let's see when Brandon takes it. White flag is out right there. So Brandon is going into turn 1 with the white flag. We are on the last lap. No real positions for us to gain here, although Jarrett is fighting hard with the 97 of Chad Little. I mean, we're going to reel him in, but it's not even for a position. We are a lap ahead of everyone, essentially. And we are, looks like fuel is going to hold. We're still at 9 pounds of fuel. Can we catch Jarrett at the end? I'll go for it. I mean, it's the last turn. Mine as well. We're going to get a drive. We needed 1 more lap, I think, to catch Dale Jarrett. So that will complete the race. We finished in 2nd, and Earnhardt was the only other car on the lead lap and almost a lap down, 30 seconds back, and Jarrett was the first car 1 lap down. We can see our fellow chase competitors, Tony Stewart there. Jeff Burton with a decent run in 8th. However, he dug himself a hole last race, and it's going to be tough to dig out of. Rusty Wallace with a top 10 there. Bobby Labonte with a 9th, but he wasn't even in the chase. So we're starting to see the top 10 filled with drivers who are not in the chase as well. Looking down, and no, I don't see any big names down here at the bottom. 2 laps down, most of the back markers there, and there goes Brandon celebrating his entry ticket to Miami. So not a bad race for us. It's one that we did not have to win. It's one that points would not have mattered. It was just us seeing if we could make that strategy work, and indeed we did, but we came up 4 seconds short. Conversely, that's where Brandon came last spring, was 4 seconds back of me. So we just sort of did the inverse. But let's take a look at my little slide onto pit road. Let's see how close we were to the commitment cone. It sort of looked pretty close, and if we missed that commitment cone, that would have been catastrophic. Now, so we spun nice and early here, and I don't know what it was, whether we just got loose on downshift, because we were nice and low here, going through the turn. We start slowing down. You see the flames shoot out the exhaust there, and there we go, just the slowest hospital wobble. And down there would be the commitment cone. We made it by a car's length. It looks like pit road was closed, but that wasn't really the case. So let's look at the championship standings as they are now after Texas. Myself and Brandon each with a win. Earnhardt is in that cutoff spot, but tied with Tony Stewart on points, but Earnhardt would get in by top fives over Stewart. Ward Burton and Rusty Wallace 13 positions behind, and Jeff Burton really didn't make up a whole lot of ground, 37 points back. So Phoenix is our last race before the championship. If Jarrett loses 4 or more spots to Earnhardt and Stewart, Jarrett's out. If Ward Burton or Rusty wins the race, they are in, kicking Stewart out, kicking Earnhardt out. Phoenix is going to be big, but not for us. So it may be a tragic race on our behalf, but a pretty epic one on behalf of these other drivers. But that is going to do it from me in this episode, ladies and gentlemen, of NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Like, share, and subscribe if you are so bold. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the penultimate race of Phoenix. Take care.